Well, Coach Antoine, do you see him more as a tackle or an end, or how do you see him being able to contribute?
I think the Bayless kid was very interesting. Trying to get in the market for a transfer. Here we have like all these criteria that we're going to do when we get a transfer. Try to make sure he's in our recruiting base, make sure he's a guy that fits our culture. We recruit the Mansfield area where he's from in high school, kind of researched him out there, try to get to know him, talk to his coaches there, everybody there talked about what type of kid he is. Now, the type of kid I think he is, he's up front. He's probably 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", 270 plus pounds. I think he can help out inside, where Z and those guys were more on the edge at times when we're in the 4 down, and he also can play inside when we're in our 3 down. So he's just a big body. We lost a lot of guys up front last year. I think he kind of gives us a different chance to, move, play a lot of good guys up front. This year was a year that you can kind of see that we just play more guys. I think we play more guys, you get more production. So that's kind of where we're trying to go there with signing Bayless from Texas.
Coach, your thoughts on, winning the transfer battle for you all?
Well, I think it's just kind of hard with the, transfers. It's just, we believe that we're going to build a team through high school players, and then we're going to go to maybe transfer at JUCOs if it's a need base or if we lose a lot of guys. This year we lose Jaquan Nelson, we lose Z, we lose Andre Landry, we lose Andre Jones. You just lose a lot of older guys. You look at our roster now, we have 10 seniors. So, that's the other thing, right? You played a lot of guys last year. This year we're trying to mix it between, if we're going to take a transfer, kind of want to take a high school kid or two for every transfer that we get. That's kind of what you can kind of see on the roster, I would say.
The linebacker from Houston, how do you envision his role? What do you envision his role being 2 and 3 years down the road?
Well, I really think he's a unique player, right? So I think he's, 6'3", about 230. He came here in camp. Initially we had 3 linebackers committed. Then we ended up having 2. And I think he was one of the kids that we really were impressed this summer, just seeing him in camp. I think that's something that we're going to rely on here is we're going to rely on, the location that we are. We're going to be able to get a lot of kids on camp. We got to see the kid on camp move around. So I don't know how big he's going to be. I mean, he's 220 pounds now, 6 months in the program in the summer right now. I don't know how big he can be. I see him as kind of as a Will or maybe a Mike. I think on his tape you can see him playing tight end. I mean, he was a returner on his football team. Most guys that big don't do that. And he was all conference player in a really good district in Texas. So I just think he's really, he's a very unique player. Great kid, comes from a great family. It's, I just think his potential is going to be high.
You've gotten a couple of guys enrolled early.
Mm-hmm.
Just from those guys, I know they hadn't really been out on the field much, but like how have they just, sort of acclimated themselves, and how's that process been?
I think this school is probably one of the most unique that I've been around. Is our players kind of take ownership of the new guys, and some of the newer guys might end up starting over a player that's here, but our guys just do a good job of teaching them how we do things here. I used to always argue it's always good to get players in here a little bit earlier than get them in here late, because really football is like the last thing that matters here. What I mean by that is like there's a lot of stuff, the discipline, going to class and all that matters here more than the football part. The football part is going to take care of itself if you can handle all your business. So I think anytime you can get high school kids or these transfers in here a little earlier so they kind of can see how we do it here, just get used to their teammates, get used to, we haven't really talked scheme or nothing with those guys yet, but once we get to, I think that just, advances those guys. Look at Caleb Edwards last year, him being able to come early, it gives him a chance in the fall to play a little bit earlier. Now, I'm not saying if you're not a freshman, Trey Amos, he came later, he was able to play as a freshman. I think it's kind of case by case, but I do think you have an advantage to do that. And we have a great administration that allows us to bring kids early when they graduate and stuff. So I just think that's kind of where it's at. Yes, sir.
With Glenn, was it as simple as you lost a really seasoned cornerback in Eric, and so you needed another seasoned corner?
Well, I think, I'm really high on the corners that we have right now. I think those guys are very unique. I think getting a guy like Glenn that Coach Des recruited out of high school, he kind of knew the kid, knew a lot about him. So I just think when you kind of, when you kind of already have a recruiting, we're going to go to transfers. We just want to know them. You just got to understand when you take a transfer kid now, you're responsible until the kid graduates. So, we're going to make sure we call the high school coaches. We're going to call his position coaches. Everybody at Southern really raved about him. His old position coaches that we know, they raved about how he is as a kid, as a player. He played in the slot, played in the nickel some, and he played outside. So I just think that's really, an advantage for us to be able to get a kid that's going to be here in the summer. Now, he's not here right now. He's still finishing up. But we're just really excited about him coming in the summer, be able to compete, bring an older guy, kind of been there. I think he started like 36 games. He started a lot of games at Southern, and has really good tape against a lot of teams that we play, Troy and all those teams that we play every year as well. So just really excited about getting him. Older guy. I do think that helps sometimes. I think it kind of can bridge the gap. But, losing somebody like Eric, he's an All-American. It's going to be hard to replace him. Eric came here as a blue shirt, which that means basically, he was going to Richmond or he was going to UT Chattanooga, and he comes here and becomes an All-American. That's just really a credit to him. I don't know if we can replace him with just one kid. It's going to take years of development to get a guy to be like E.G.
When we talk about, or Coach Daz talks about, you needed numbers on the defensive line, did you at times feel shorthanded on the defensive line, especially towards the end of the year, or is that more about the depth chart down the road?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think this is a physical game, as y'all know. You look at somebody like I talk about Z, and just look at Z. Those guys. It's a beating up front. It just changes the game when you have O-line, D-line, and quarterback. I think those are very important. You look at all the NFL teams right now. You watch the playoffs, those teams have great quarterbacks. And when the quarterbacks get out, you're in trouble. But somebody got to protect the quarterbacks on both sides, right? So, the quarterback gets hit because the D-line's getting after him and vice versa. So I just think when you lose seasoned guys that are seniors, we lost those seniors, that Z had the NFLPA game. Andre Jones is at a senior all-star game. You lose other guys that did a really good job here that was in the program being developed. I just think it takes time. I think O-line and D-line, Coach Leje talks about it all the time, those guys have to work to get ready. Like, you just don't come in here and play right away. Now, if you do, then it's the Max Mitchells, it's the, Osiris Torrance. It's those guys, right? And those guys are NFL pros. That's the difference, right? A lot of times they have to come in here, they have to wait a little bit and learn. It's not like it maybe a corner position where a guy comes in that we're really high on, like a Moses that's an early enrollee. He has a chance to come in and play early because it's not the D-line, O-line. It's more of a skill position. Kind of, can you manage the game? Can you handle school and stuff like that? So it's a little bit of both this year. I would say that, this time sometimes guys go down. You lose guys. You're at all the games. You've seen it. Lawson goes down and people like that go down, and all of a sudden, you look up there and you got guys that it's great, guys that are walk-ons and guys that are maybe not ready to play, they get to play, but it just helps us for the next season. So it's kind of a catch-22, I would say, but we definitely lost some guys last year and wanted to do a good job there. I'm always going to want to take D-lineman corners every year. If we got one that's really good, those are the two positions I think it's really hard to say no to because it takes so long to develop them and get them ready to go. Yes, sir.
Can you talk about the efforts that you guys put into kind of doing the researching and getting in these players, specifically in state, able to grab these people in Louisiana? Kind of what's the work that you guys have to put in to kind of get that process going?
Well, I think the first thing that we do, we watch a lot of kids. Every kid in the state of Louisiana that has an offer, it doesn't matter if it's D2, whatever. It don't matter. Any school, we're going to watch them. And I think that's a credit to Coach Leje and our staff that we've been doing this for a long time. We can't not recruit our state. That's our advantage, that we have a competitive advantage on people. We're like in the middle of a great area. Look at all the pros that come from here. Look at all the players that we have here. So before we go out of state to look for a player, we want to make sure we do right by the kids in our state, right? Fans in the stands, family members here. I just think that's really important. So we're just going to do everything we can to see if we can find a kid in state first, right? And if we can't, it is what it is. Maybe it's a year that's is down on D lineman or what, then we might go out of state or find a different avenue or a different state to recruit that. But we're going to make sure every school, we make it that somebody in our program goes by every school every year, whether you have a player or not. Whether you might walk in there and the coach might tell you, we don't have anybody and we ain't going to have nobody for 2 or 3 years. Well, we're going to go every year just in case, because you just never know when you find a guy. You can find guys in Louisiana just like that. Like a kid, he just came out from last year. He never played football before, and he ends up being a really good player. So that's just kind of what we do here. We got a lot of respect for the high school coaches here, and we're just going to build it from inside out. I think it's really important, and we want to be that standard for every program in the state, that we're going to make sure we go in state first. Yes, sir.
Can you tell me about a time where you did walk into one of these high school games and you saw someone that's like, that's him. He's gonna be the one.
I think if you look at our program, we got a lot of guys. You know, y'all been here. That's the one thing cool about the media here. Y'all been here from like you see these kids when they come in and not like look at Andre Jones. Like the kid comes in, he's 200 and if that 195 pounds. He leaves at 255 and he's going to the combine. Like this kid was a receiver. You know, like that kid wasn't going to get recruited by a lot of people, but we were ended up to take that kid because, you know, that's what we take here. You look at Max Mitchell, you know, he was going to Arkansas Monticello, great school, and it's D2s and NAIAs and stuff like that, and we really was like his only Division I school, and he comes here and he develops and he plays, and he was starting at the Jets this year. I just think it's like more common than you think. I mean, I talk about like Trey and those guys that we recruit, Caleb Anderson, a guy that was playing quarterback and receiver and all this stuff. You know, now he comes in here. I mean, he has a chance. I love Mike Jarquette, but he could be even better than him one day. Like, I just think it's like it's the norm here. We're gonna take kids that don't really play the positions that they're on, and we're gonna have to develop them. If that makes sense. Like, that's kind of our niche. If we get a player that's playing the position that he plays, and he's really high level, a lot of times he's gonna get, you know, he's gonna have a lot of different options. So we're a developmental program. We're gonna try to find elite traits. Somebody that might have the right height but not the right weight. Maybe he hasn't played the game along. It's going to be one or two things that we say is elite, and after that, we got to develop the rest, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know development's kind of the first approach, but do you feel like there's someone amongst the defensive signees of this class that you wouldn't be surprised, say, come for last week of August, has positioned themselves maybe atop the depth chart at whatever their particular position?
Well, of course, you can look at some of the guys that are like here right now. You know, you look at Trey Fife that we recruited last year. He ends up going to SMU, and he comes back. A guy like that could be very intriguing because we lost there. You know, Kendarius Miller being a JUCO kid that's already enrolled. He's in the program learning what we do here. I think those guys always give you an advantage. Now, does that mean they don't? Because I think of guys like Cody Jackson right down the street at Evangel. I thought that kid's a special player, really got under-recruited, but plays baseball, right? Like I would say here, the way that we do it, the kids do the installs 4 and 5 times before we play a game. So it really gives the guys a lot of chances to learn it. And then we can find out what those guys do. Now, to be a full-time starter, I do think it helps to be here all the time. But we're going to find roles, whether it's just third down, whether it's just goal line. You know, to me, I know that's like the company line. I just don't really know. You look at, Lance Williams, he only played football a couple of years. Chase Edwards is a basketball kid, only played football a couple of years. Zay Coleman, a D lineman, only played football for a couple of years. I don't know how good these guys are going to be. They're 17 years old when they step on campus. I mean, it's no telling how good these players can be. And, you know, that's probably why somebody else might look at their tape and say, well, he might be a little underdeveloped. I wish he was maybe 10 or 15 more pounds bigger. But that's kind of, I think, where we're at, you know, if that makes sense on defense. I'm not trying to be the company line, but that's what I would say. You know, like, of course, Glenn and those guys that are a little older, they should have a better understanding about football, but, like, just being able to handle it, you just never know. There's a lot of true freshmen that come in here because the way we do it, that they can play, and we simplify what we do for them to play, if that makes sense.